Don't even think about moving to Salem, Oregon without watching this video first, because today we are going to be exploring one of Salem's most conveniently located neighborhoods, one that is filled with trees everywhere you look and has homes that are filled with characters from the 1970s onward. Stick around because we're exploring the neighborhood of Cambridge Estates. Cambridge Estates is located in Southeast Salem in the larger Morningside neighborhood. It is so conveniently positioned that this neighborhood is a secret hidden gem of Salem. Most of my YouTube clients who are focusing their search on this neighborhood have a few things in common. The first being that they love funky architecture from the 1970s onward. The second thing that they all have in common is that they're looking for a very conveniently located neighborhood that's not just positioned next to I-5, but is also close to things like Costco, daily amenities, and so much more. And the last thing that they all have in common is that they have a budget of $600,000 or more. Now, if that sounds like something you are looking for as well in your next neighborhood here in Salem, make sure you stick around through the entirety of this video because I'm going to be breaking down the good, the bad, but more importantly, the ugly aspects of living in the Cambridge neighborhood. My name is Clarity Odd and I'm a local agent here in Salem who focuses on working with relocation buyers. I myself relocated to Salem without knowing anything about this city, and now I get to help people just like you. If you want to hire me to be your Salem, Oregon real estate agent, go down to the description below and book a one-on-one consultation with me so that we can set up a plan for you. All right, let's jump right into the pros and cons of living in Cambridge Estates. The first con of Cambridge Estates is that you are not going to find new construction homes here. So all of the homes in this community, they were constructed from the 1970s onward. And you can really see those funky vibes in just the exterior architecture alone within this neighborhood. But if you are looking for new construction, there's like maybe one or two new construction properties that I've ever seen in my entirety of living here and working as an agent go up in Cambridge Estates. So really, this neighborhood will be better suited for somebody who likes that funky architecture and character homes. The next con on our list is that the homes here do tend to be fairly expensive. So they are going to be closer to the $550,000 mark and above. As I'm making this video right now, the average sales price for a home in Salem is at $430,000. So that's well above $100,000 more than the typical home in Salem. So you do get a larger home for that price point here in Cambridge Estates, but do be mindful that you are going to have a healthy budget to get into this neighborhood. The next con on our list is that there's just a lot of wood in this neighborhood. So there's a lot of trees, but also because the homes here are more 1970s and onwards in their vibes, you're also going to see a lot of wood paneling, which I really love. I love that funky architecture, but I know for a lot of people, if you see wood paneling on the inside of your house, you're like, hell no, I'm painting over that, ripping it out. So if you don't like the idea of, wood as in trees all around you, and you don't like the idea of wood paneling, this might not be the right neighborhood for you. The next con on our list is that if you're a fur baby owner like me, you've got a little doggo, you are going to be disappointed by the lack of neighborhood parks in this community. So most of the vlog tours that we do, I talk about the fact that there are parks nearby or even within those neighborhoods. And this neighborhood really only has one park. The one park that is here is Hillfiker. I think that's how you say it. Don't quote me because I don't actually know. Is Hillfiker Park, and it looks just like this. We're checking it out right now. But that is an undeveloped park where you can walk your fur baby, but it's really not robust, and there's just not a lot going on for it. The next con on our list is that this neighborhood truly is car dependent. So it's a very conveniently located neighborhood, but you are going to need to have your car handy and ready to go to get to basically anything and everything around town. So you have ample sidewalks in this neighborhood. It's really great for taking a stroll, going on a bike ride, walking the fur baby. But in terms of like walking to amenities like your favorite grocery store, you just really can't do that in this neighborhood. You do need to have a car, so be prepared for a 100% car dependent neighborhood if you move in here. The next con on our list is that this neighborhood does tend to be a little bit more outdated, and a lot of the homes, they do need some level of renovation. So if you're not ready for an older funky home in need of a little bit of TLC, this might not be the right neighborhood for you. We are seeing more homes have more and more updates to their interiors, but do be mindful that these are a little bit more of what a lot of people would consider project houses, where you might get into the house and you need to renovate the kitchen or the bathrooms because they haven't been touched in 20 or 30 years. So if you don't want a project house, this could be a little bit difficult to get those just modern features and finishes in the houses here. The next con on our list is for my fur baby parents out there. Not all of the backyards in this community are fully fenced. Now, the backyards are very spacious for most of the properties here, but there are some that are partially fenced, or they kind of have like foliage as their fencing. Do be mindful, if you have a fur baby, you might need to install a full fence around the perimeter of your backyard if you get into this neighborhood. If you're finding value in this video so far, give it a thumbs up and go down to the comments and tell me why you think you might like the Cambridge Estates neighborhood. All right, we've talked about the cons of living in Cambridge Estates, so let's move on to the pros of living in this community. The first being that there's no HOA in this community. It is still a very well-maintained community. You're going to see a lot of foliage, gardeners, people with well-maintained and landscaped front and backyards. But there's no HOA, which I personally know is a huge benefit to most of my clients. Y'all don't really like HOAs, and I totally understand. So it's great to see that this is a neighborhood that's well maintained and manicured, but it doesn't have an HOA involved. The next pro on our list, which is one of the big reasons why my clients really gravitate towards this neighborhood, is that it is just so stinking convenient. And so you have things like Kubler Street, which is a main thoroughfare here in South Salem. You have Costco, you have Trader Joe's, you have Interstate 5 just about 5 minutes away from this neighborhood. You've got quick and easy access to Commercial Street, which can boop you into downtown Salem. So overall, this neighborhood is incredibly conveniently located to almost all of the amenities that Salem has to offer. Now, a huge highlight about how convenient this is this neighborhood is so tucked away. Like, you would have no idea that this neighborhood existed if you were just driving on Kubler. It's just so secluded and private because of all these massive trees that we have around. And that's the next pro on our list, is that there are so many stinking trees in this neighborhood. I mean, let me turn this around and just look. So we have these beautiful, beautiful trees right here. They just go on, and that is a huge highlight of this neighborhood for a lot of people who focus their search here. They want to feel like they are in a tree house. The next pro on our list is that this is not a super hilly community. Now, there are some sloping hills within this community, but it's not anything that's like super steep like we sometimes see in West Salem or other parts of South Salem. And so if you don't like hills, great, this is going to be a perfect community for you to look into, because the hills are more like just kind of rolling mini hills. They're not super steep. The next pro on our list is that these streets are really, really wide. And while that's kind of not really an obvious pro, it really gives this sense of scale to this neighborhood, where it feels like you have enough room between you and your neighbors and you aren't just squeezed together like sardines. The next pro to this community is the fact that while there isn't a lot in terms of like parks to take your doggos to within the neighborhood, there are a whole lot of dogs in this neighborhood. And this is one pro that I mention about a lot of different neighborhoods, because Salem has just a lot of people that have a lot of dogs, and this is one of those neighborhoods. You're going to see a lot of people walking around with their dog in the daytime, in the morning, in the evening. So if you're a fur baby owner like me, that is going to be a huge highlight of this community. The next pro on our list is that most of the homes in this community are over 2,000 square feet, some even over 3,000 square feet. So this is a great community if you like character homes that are a little bit funkier, you want tree-lined streets, and you need a bigger home. This neighborhood can facilitate all of those things, at once. So this is a huge highlight for my clients who are moving into this community, is the fact that it feels private. There's a lot of trees, it's beautiful, but there are also huge houses in this neighborhood. The next pro on our list is that this neighborhood actually has a neighborhood pool. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with pools here in Oregon, but they are not the best thing to have. It's like you want a friend who has a boat, you don't want to be the one who owns a boat. And that's kind of what I feel about the pool here. Is like, you don't really want to have a pool in your house because it's just a lot of work, and you can only use it for like 2 months out of the year because that's the only time that it's warm enough to facilitate needing a pool. So it's great that in this community you have a community pool that you can become a member of. You don't have to take care of it, you can just take advantage of all the greatness and fun that a pool has to offer. The one downside to that is that it is kind of expensive, I think, to get a membership there. It's $600 annually, and then on top of that, if you're a new member, you also have to pay, I think it's like a $500 fee. So it comes out to over $1,000 to just become a member of that pool, and you might only be able to use it like 2 months out of the year. So keep that in mind. But having a pool in a neighborhood and having it be a community pool, that's not very common here in Salem. So that's a huge highlight overall. The next pro on our list is that the lots here are decently sized, which means that you've got big houses, but you also have pretty darn big backyards. And given, like I mentioned before, not all of the backyards are fully fenced or enclosed, but the backyards, especially if you have a doggo, I mean, you're just gonna love them. They feel so peaceful, so serene, because you have all of these trees everywhere. So it's this really nice combination of like an entertainer's backyard, a dog paradise, just massive and spacious overall. And it also helps facilitate a little bit of privacy between you and your neighbors. And then you throw in these massive trees and it's like, what neighbors? I don't even know if I have neighbors. So big backyards is a huge pro. Big houses is a huge pro. Overall, character homes, I mean, I think that this is a pretty great neighborhood that not a lot of people know about. Now, if you're liking the sound of the Cambridge neighborhood, it's sounding better and better to you, make sure you schedule that one-on-one consultation with me so that we can further chat about your relocation plan here to Salem and potentially the Cambridge neighborhood. You can book that one-on-one consultation with me by going down to the description below and getting on my calendar. My clients who have a focus on the Cambridge neighborhood typically have a few things in common. They like older, funky character homes built from the 1970s onwards. They typically need some level of convenience and ease of access to Interstate 5. And then the last thing that they have in common is typically their budget is over $600,000 or more. All right, let's go jump online and check out some of the recently sold homes in this neighborhood. I just can't believe that I was calling this Cambridge Estates when it is just Cambridge. When I do these videos and I get something in my head, man, oh man, does it stick. All right, where the heck is Cambridge neighborhood? We are looking at downtown Salem right here. And then where all of these houses are, this is the Cambridge neighborhood. My outlining is not exact. Redfin kind of defaults these lines, and so this is not perfect. But it'll do for this video. The pool that I was talking about earlier, the one that you can buy a membership in if you're located in the Cambridge neighborhood, is right here. And I would say one huge downside beyond the price of membership for that pool for, only the 2 months out of the year that you're probably going to be able to use it, is the fact that it backs up onto Kubler. Kubler is a busy ass road. And so unless you find the noise of cars to be relaxing, I don't know, that pool just might not be for you. What we're looking at right now is the past year of sold properties in the Cambridge neighborhood. We have 12 houses that have sold in the past 12 months, meaning that this neighborhood averages one house per month that goes up for sale. And I've sorted these houses from highest price to lowest price just to give you a little bit of context about what your money can buy you. Let's see, one other important thing real quick is that Battle Creek Road is right here, and this is going to be a main connector point for you in this neighborhood along with Kubler. Okay, let's jump into it. So on the higher end here of the price points in Cambridge neighborhood, we have this house right here. Let's take a look at some of these photos. So you'll remember one of the cons that I said about this neighborhood is that you sometimes have houses that are very outdated, and this is actually a great example of a house that is updated and upgraded, and the price point reflects that. So let's go to the kitchen. I mean, this is a lot of white going on here, which I totally get, you know, it's a style. But you can see there's tiling in the backsplash there. We've got stainless steel appliances except for the refrigerator. But at some point in time, somebody has come in and updated/upgraded this house, hence the price point. This is also a pretty big home. Ooh, soaker tub. Love that. I want to get to the backyard, but this, there we go. Okay, get into the backyard here. So this is very, very just great example of the backyards that you're going to find in Cambridge. You have really manicured lawns, front and backyard. And you know how I was telling you that like there's so many trees and foliage that you really feel it's like the backyard's very serene and private. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like you can hardly even see your neighbors back here because the damn foliage is just so big. Okay, let's go back to checking out another house. And the next one that I want to pick is a little bit more, shall I say, outdated and funktacular. It's this house. This house right here. So this outside, like, look at how funky this is. That is Cambridge through and through. And let me just, there we go. So this is a really great example of a house that clearly somebody's done a little bit of upgrading and updating to it, but like you still got a potbelly stove right there. So yeah, I mean, look at this kitchen. Like that's just a baby kitchen, super small. Ooh, camera guy should have moved his bag. These are just god-awful photos, but they do demonstrate really well, like, look at that backyard. Where are your neighbors? Don't even know. This is a good example of a backyard that has foliage that kind of outlines the perimeter. I'm not convinced that this is fully fenced in the backyard. There might be a chain link fence back there. But this is a good example of a house that's been updated a little bit, but like there are still some remnants of the original home. This one has been staged with modern furniture, which does a lot to tell the story of what it could look like. Okay, let's move on to another house. And this one is the funkiest of funk. It's amazing. I feel like this house was probably purchased by a renovator, if I were to guess. I mean, if I were renovating houses, this is what I would purchase, so maybe that's why I'm saying it. But you guys, oh my God. Okay, so the first house that we looked at was on the end of like, okay, what can you get for updated house? This is on the polar opposite extreme of that. Like, look at this carpet. Has it not been updated since the 70s? Also, why do I kind of love it? I would move into this house tomorrow. And I don't even care that those stairs look like a hellscape if you're drinking any or you have vertigo because you got new glasses. I'm not talking about me. I am. I'm losing my balance because of my new glasses and it's prescription. But my glasses do have a little bit of 70s vibe, and they also transition into sunglasses, which have a very similar tint to this flooring. No wonder why I like it. The kitchen, totally outdated and hideous. Hideous is the word I was going for, but it doesn't matter because look at that solarium with the hot tub right off of the primary bedroom. Oh, I am in love. I just love this. And look at how awkward that is. This is my favorite in 70s houses where you have like the vanity for the bathroom is in the room and it has carpet. And so you're like, ew, that's really gross, because it is gross. But don't worry because your toilet is in its own little wet closet. I just love it. Carpet in the bathroom. Fuck yeah. God, this is an adorable house. Fantastic fencing. This is a wonderful example of what fencing in this neighborhood is going to look like. Great. This is really funky. I love it. Okay, let's take a look at one more house that is a little bit different. So Cambridge is 4 kind of mini sections, and you're going to notice that there are 2 very distinct flavors and vibes. So you have kind of this vibe, super funky 70s. That's like the OG part of Cambridge. And then you have this area where the construction is a little bit newer. It's still old, y'all, but it's newer, and you don't have as mature foliage. And so it kind of breaks up, like this area is, we're going to say, quote unquote newer, and a little bit of this part here, kind of like that. And then this part is really where you get those funky houses. So we're going to take a look at this house right here, which is kind of in the newer, still old, but newer part. And this is a great example of the newer, but like it still is a little bit outdated and could use some TLC and renovations. Like, could you move into this house tomorrow? Sure. Would you want to with a kitchen like that? Maybe. If it were me, I would update this kitchen because it's a little bit old feeling. Well, I shouldn't say old, it's just outdated feeling. But this is a great example of kind of like that middle ground of you're not on the extreme of a shag carpet, but you still got a pink bathroom, which is super cute. Dang. Oh, gotta have the blue bathroom too. Okay, and then this is a good example of a backyard that is a little bit more petite. It does have fencing, but it's one of those kind of lower fences. And then it has wood fencing over here, but for all of my doggy friend people, humans, just keep that in mind. Here's a great photo of the pool. This house is going to be close to the community pool. Kubler Street is going to be on the left side of this pool, kind of in this area here. But it's just a small little pool, great for the, I don't know, kids. I don't have kids. I don't even have kids that go to this pool, so I don't know. It's good for everyone that might like a pool. Okay, so we are going to go take a look at these houses again, just kind of scrolling through. Be mindful of the price point. There are just very big houses in this neighborhood. Like, look, over 2,000 square feet, over 2,000 square feet, over 2,000 square feet, that one doesn't actually say over 2,000 square feet. So these houses are big. The lots are larger than a lot of other areas in South Salem. It's relatively minimal on the Clarity Hill scale. And overall, this is just a stellar neighborhood if you like character homes. And I would encourage you to get your little tookie online and check out this area for yourself. All right, let's go hop in the car and drive around together. We are starting our adventures in my car in the section of Cambridge that is newer. Mind you, when I say newer, I mean like 1990s rather than 1970s and 80s. So technically still kind of outdated on the interiors trend-wise, but really not like the oldest of neighborhoods. There are 2 very distinct sections, the older part of Cambridge and the newer part. This newer part that we're driving in right now, the architecture looks very, very different. There are not as many big kind of pine trees or cedar trees. I don't know what those big ass trees are, but there's not as many of them in this newer section of Cambridge. So if you were wanting the newer section of Cambridge with 90s houses, less big trees, this is where you are going to want to focus your search on. Something I forgot to mention earlier is that you really don't have the ugly sight lines of Kubler or Commercial Street or downtown. Like, the trees make this neighborhood so private that you aren't going to have ugly vistas to contend with. Almost every single house in this neighborhood, whether it be in the older section or the newer section, they all have really beautiful views out the back because there's just so much foliage. There's always going to be an exception to the rule. There are going to be houses with small backyards and ugly vistas. But for the most part, I just feel like the houses that I've seen in this neighborhood, they all look really good in the backyard. Lots of foliage. Mailboxes, you can see that those are going to be a centralized location where you go and get your mail. The mailman is not going to come to your house and bother you and blow up your Ring notifications. Okay, we are starting to dabble into the neighborhood that was constructed in the 1970s and 80s, and you can start to tell that the architecture is going back in time. Like, look at these houses. The gardens are much more mature. You can start to see that there are more, pine trees, cedar trees. I don't know what they are, but big old bushy trees that are here year round. You can start to see that there are more of those. This neighborhood has a lot of Japanese maple trees that are very mature. And so when you see like a deep maroon tree, it's probably a Japanese maple tree. And those grow really, really well here. Oh yeah, like look at that one on the left. That's a Japanese maple, although that one's kind of sparse. Straight ahead, we have a funktacular house, screaming 70s or maybe 80s vibes, but like those pitched roofs, man, oh man, what a time to be alive. Okay, this house on the left, it looks a little bit more 90s-ish. So this is the transition part. We are getting deeper into the 70s and 80s here as we go down this little tiny hill. Ooh yeah, funky houses everywhere. And let's see, recently I've had 2 clients who have been looking in this neighborhood, and both of them, the houses that we checked out, they were on like the funktacular side of the spectrum here, and I was in love. There's still one of the houses that we checked out with my clients. It didn't work for them, but it's still for sale. And honestly, I can't believe it. When I was going there with my clients, I was like, holy hot bananas, this house is going to go off the market so soon because it has a massive backyard. It has a great floor plan. I thought it was priced very competitively for this neighborhood, particularly in relationship to the size of the house and the lot, but it's still on the market. So I was totally wrong in my predictions, and that is just fine because it means somebody else is going to get that house for cheaper than what it is listed for when it first went on the market. All right, these big old trees are just looking banging beautiful. I have so much fun in this neighborhood every time I go walk around and I don't know, just look at houses for clients and stuff. I don't know why else I would be in this neighborhood, but I wish I was here more because it's just really fudging cool. Let's see, I'm running out of things to say if you can't tell, but we've got a lot more driving to do. Big old boulder right there. How did that boulder get there? I don't know. When I was walking around this neighborhood during the vlog, there was airport noise. Those are just small private propeller planes. That was a lot of P's. And that's because you have the airport. The Salem airport is very close by, and so you will have airport noise. And then this is also next to the train track, which you heard the train do its little choo-choo horn. And so do be mindful that this is going to be a neighborhood that has some noise pollution. I find that it's easier to forget about that noise pollution when there are so many trees and it feels more private and secluded. I don't know, somehow when I'm in this neighborhood, it just doesn't seem as bothersome as if you were in like a neighborhood that's closer to the train tracks or the airport. But that's something that I forgot to mention, so put that down on the con list. A lot of these houses, when I first got here, when it was a little bit cooler in the morning time, there was a lot of people out gardening and walking their dogs. And then by the time that I was like walking around myself and driving around, it was a little bit warmer in the day, so there's not as many people around. But I was surprised at how many people on a Monday were out and about doing things in their yard and just living their best life. So if you like to garden, if you like to meander in your neighborhood with your doggo, you are going to fit right into this neighborhood. This section here does have a little bit of a hill, and I think that this is a good example of like the scope of hill and downgrade in terms of like the percentage of grade of the hill. It's really not too bad, which is fantabulous for all of my people who hate hills like I do. If you haven't heard my story about the most terrifying hill that I've ever encountered, go watch my video. I think it might be a vlog video about Croissant Creek. Croissant Mountain. I can't remember if it was a vlog or if it was in a different segment of video, but Basically, I was up there showing a house, and it's on the top of Croissant Mountain. Is on the top of a goddamn mountain, y'all. It is just so steep. It's terrible. Terrible, I tell you. Anyways, I was going to show a house up there, and my clients, they pulled in. Great. I pulled in, and my car, obviously, I put it into, you know, like emergency brake and stuff because I didn't want it to roll down the hill. Well, turns out, god damn it started rolling down that fucking hill. I cannot tell you how terrified I was. It was just the absolute worst thing that I could have ever experienced. My little old Mercedes, she was, I don't know why she wasn't playing nice that day, but she was pissed off at me because, you know, I started rolling down that hill. This street right here is Battle Creek Road. That is going to be a main thoroughfare for you. In front of that is part of the Morningside neighborhood, Pringle Creek, Legacy Heights. That's the neighborhood on the other side of this hill. It looks spectacular. Like, look at how beautiful it looks today. Oh my God, just gorgeous. But this is the road that is going to connect you to downtown, to Commercial, to Kubler. And so this is going to be a main thoroughfare for you. If you continued the way that we're going right now, you would hit Kubler. If you enjoyed this video, you are going to want to watch this one next. Bye, friends.